You're listening to Radio Sultanate of Oman on your favorite radio station, 90.4 FM.
The Modern Family. Let us bridge the gap between generations. Let us shape up the modern family. The Modern Family. The Modern Family. Join the discussion and give us your feedback. Live with Hatem
Rahim, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. All praise be to Allah, the Lord of the heavens and the earth, and peace and blessings be upon our beloved messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. O Allah, grant us knowledge, wisdom and sincerity. Dear listeners, I salute you all with the salutation of the people of paradise. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your host Hatem Al-Abd Salam, and joining me is
Wa'il Al-Harrasi. I feel very unwanted. Yeah, the introduction did not mention my name, but anyway.
You're always in the heart, Dr. Wa'il, so don't
Okay,
worry.
I'll stay quiet then in the heart.
Today we have two amazing guests, honorable guests, and because Wa'il is upset, so I'll let Wa'il take the honor of introducing our guest tonight.
Well, before introducing the guest, let's introduce the topic today.
Okay.
Dear listeners, first of all, we would like to apologize for the interruption of the show last week. We didn't have the show, and that was due to the comics exhibition. We didn't know about that, so apologies from us, and we'll try and make sure that any interruption will be announced beforehand, and we'll work it out with the authorities here at the radio station. We started the week before, 2 weeks ago, and we said we will dedicate the next 3 months and talk about children with disabilities, and we will discuss each type of disability as much as we can. How can we live with disability as humans? How can we live and raise our children with disability without making them feel that they are less important than us, that they are less able than us, and that they and us are one. We don't actually have they and us. We are all one, and they could serve society as much as we can, not probably even more. And today's show will start with talking about people with physical challenge, physically challenged people, or physically disabled, either by having paralysis, or born without limbs, or even due to amputation, due to any sort of illnesses or accidents. And with us today, we have Sabah Al-Bahlani and her inspirational daughter Safiya Al-Bahlani, who is an artist and a motivational speaker and a public speaker. So welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have you here, and really in 1 hour it's very difficult to say how can we start tackling this show. And probably we could ask, having a child with who is physically challenged is probably daunting to every parent. Before a parent starts dealing or adapting to a child who will need extra attention, how is it possible to prepare a parent to the news?
I think that's one of the most difficult things that we go through here in Oman, where the parents, when they're told about their child the first time, they're given news in a sad way. So usually parents are scared, afraid. They go through denial. Maybe things will get better, you know, for their kids. Maybe if we travel abroad, maybe we'll get better, services.
Yeah.
And they go through all of these issues. While I think it's very important for people when they break the news, to really give parents idea on how they can cope with their children and how their children can, without giving them sad news, because I think we never know. It's in God's hands how children can progress. Some children can progress very well. Yeah. Even the doctors themselves are shocked.
Yeah.
And it all depends on the parents and how much care they give to the child. So I think, the healthcare facilities, the people who are the family member who when they announce a person with physical disability, whatever it is, type of physical disability, they should really not, they should encourage them to realize that this child can be something.
And it is how they break the news that makes all the difference sometimes.
Exactly, because most of the time when they're told, their mind goes into that this child will never be able to do anything, parents.
And sometimes it doesn't have to do with disability. It's just sometimes, I remember a colleague of mine told me, actually this week, that it was the way the doctors broke the news to him, or he just went for a normal checkup to the hospital, and the way they broke the news to him, he just broke to pieces.
Exactly.
And he had to be admitted in hospital for 2 days for observation, all of that. And it was only because how it was broken, the news was given to him, and it was all false alarm.
Exactly.
So we need to be very careful of how we deliver.
Exactly.
Now the message has been delivered, let's say positively or negatively.
Before that, Dr. Wael, I think very, very important is sometimes some cases where parents are told during pregnancy that maybe something is wrong with the baby. I think we should not jump into conclusion. We should not, live the dilemma before it happening, because there are few cases where medically the mother or the parents were told that something wrong is with the baby, and then after the baby is born, the baby is perfectly alright and normal and nothing is wrong. So you should not go through that dilemma for 9 months thinking negatively about what's going to happen, what about this child and all those things. Just leave it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be positive, and you never know, maybe this child is a blessing to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, Allah will take something and give you even more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people need to understand, that every child, whatever type of disability they have, there's something good in them. That we have to look at that and not look at all the negative things that are there. If a child can't walk, they have other things that are good. Even in our real life, I mean, with general things, we are always thinking of negative, and I think we should stop doing that and look at what are the positive that are there in our life.
It is actually very easy to see the most distinct thing on a person. Sometimes a disability at first sight would be the first thing people see and notice.
Exactly.
And they would just mark that person with their disability and ignore and oversee all the positive things or the abilities they have. And if that happens in a family, within a small group, yes, it is sad, but it is even worse when it happens across the society, and the whole society does that.
Exactly, and that's why what is very important is to start teaching our kids and integrate people with disability, with all kind of disability in schools, because I think that's where it will start. Then when we see the children with disability outside, it will be normal. If you travel in the West now, you see disabled everywhere, because the environment is conducive for them to be there. You see them in playground, you see them in the malls, you see them in the activity, even in the advertisement now they are putting people with disability. The idea, if people start seeing people with disability, then they will not really look at it as if something is new to them, or they want they're curious to know about it. They've already seen it in school. They're outside in the parks. When they see a child with disability, they'll not be really confused, especially with the children. And children are curious. When they see somebody with disability, they want to know why, Mommy, he's different than me.
But children are much more accepting than adults.
Yes, I think true, because of their inherent enthusiasm and energy most of the time. From your own experience, Sophia, how do you think you felt when you were a child?
I was less cautious. I was a very bubbly child.
I remember that.
I think, yes, I had hard time, having friends in and out, and I think that goes with everyone, but having a certain challenge just makes it a little bit more difficult. But I felt like it was much easier to do things than when I'm an adult. I'm more cautious of what I'm doing now. Like, I'm worried, okay, is that person going to judge me? Am I going to be accepted? and so forth.
Yeah, and I think it's with everything that the children have no boundaries. Even the way they think, if you give them a problem, they will just try and solve it, and they will just give you any sort of solution, because in their mind they have no boundaries.
Exactly.
Yeah? Whether with adults, they always try and think of obstacles before of thinking how they do things, and that's the good thing. This particular attitude, I think we need to enforce it as parents.
Exactly.
When we receive the news of a child who might be disabled or is already disabled, either after birth or after an accident, we need to start and adjust our behavior and teach ourselves how to deal with it. And we must put in mind that children really don't mind, and they will learn and adapt. So what are the steps that you would suggest that people or parents do in order to prepare themselves and adapt in a life with a child with disability?
I think what the parents need to do if they have a child with whatever kind of physical challenges,
Yes.
when they reach an age where they start taking care of themselves. Usually we start teaching our kids to care for themselves at age 1 approximately. When they reach that age, the parents should give the kids the tools that they require. For example, a toothbrush, like Safiya.
Yeah.
We gave her a toothbrush. She has to figure out how to do it. She can do it the first time right or wrong, then I can help her, show her how to do it. We shouldn't be very forceful, because we need to learn, because usually this is not a normal way. Even with regular children, you have to teach them how to do that. But with somebody with challenges...
They like to imitate.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you do this activity with them, you give them, you be patient, and you allow them to do it. They will do it wrong. I mean, they won't do it right. But the idea is for them to figure out how it works for them. And I think even if you go to the therapist, they usually tell you, what the child wants. Let them do it, because we as therapists don't know what's good and bad. The child has to tell us, or the person has to tell us what works for them.
We haven't lived it. How would we know? Huh?
And each person is different. For example, for Safiya, when she was, when she was little, what we used to do is she will take her bath in the evening for getting ready to go to bed. The first time we did it very early, threw the pyjama to her, let her dress herself. It took her 1.5 hours.
Wow.
She couldn't figure out how to do it, because, you have to allow her to do that. So slowly by slowly, now if you give Safiya something to do it, she can do it just like that. Why? Because she went through that experience.
I mean, just before the show, I was amazed. I can't use the iPhone, Safiya, the way you use it, because I don't like iPhone. Yeah, but for other reasons as well. You were texting your friends and telling them that you are on 90.4 FM, and the way you just picked it up, put it in the handbag, as it's just part of you. And I really admire that, and I wish that this show was on TV, so just everyone could see. And people with children with disability really should see how children can adapt and grow as adults. Exactly. Into a fully able. I wouldn't say that Safiya is disabled at all. And thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to Safiya's determination and your persistence as well as a mother.
And I think it's also the community. Some of my family member or friends would say to me, "You are really cruel." They want to go and help her. For example, when we have dinner, we had to, to put a spoon with a Velcro on her hand, so she would eat with one hand, not with both of her stomach. And it took her again like 1.5 hours to eat on her own. And my family were like, "How can you do that?" Sometimes she would sleep on the table and wake up and eat. But I'm not kidding you. Now she's an independent person. She can do it herself. And as she grew, you could see within 6 months how she has improved so much. But the problem with the family, we're so passionate and we're so caring and we feel guilty. So we end up doing things for our kids, not realizing that we're really harming them.
Yeah.
We call that tough love. Let them learn it the difficult way. But believe me, afterwards, the kids are capable to do things on their own.
Let's just draw a picture to the listeners, especially to the parents. Do you, Safiya, remember when your mother gave you your pajamas and the 1.5 hours? Do you remember that?
I don't remember pajamas, but I do remember sitting on the table. I'm still the last one to be eating, but that's because I chew slowly. But with the spoon, I do remember very well, because every time I'd lift the rice, and it was a tiny baby spoon, every time I put the rice on the spoon, it would just drop. And they're done, and I'm still like on my third portion, like third bite.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but do you think that it helped you, the way your mother gave you the challenge and did not interfere to help you during dinner? Did that help you and make you a better capable person?
Yes, it helped me. It actually taught me like how to become more creative in a way that how can I hold the spoon without having it being tied with my hands. And slowly I figured out, I don't need the Velcro. I can just use a regular fork and knife. And I still have difficulty sometimes when I go to restaurants and they have like heavy knives and things. So they always tell me, why don't you carry something with you? And I was like, no, I need to learn how to adapt to whatever is in front of me instead of every time specializing something for myself.
So that's a very good message for everyone who's listening. If it was a parent or a child, I think learning how to use different things and accepting challenges, new challenges every time, that is admirable. And if you have that mentality, then the sky is your limit. Here I would like to still come back to one very important aspect. Of course, you have trusted your mother now, and whatever challenges she gives you, you trust that already. But there was a time where there would be some sort of dispute, or please help me, or she's fed up. How did it change? How did the shift come about? I would ask the mother first, Sabah. So what was going on? I would like to really draw a picture for parents if possible. And then we'll come to you and listen your version of the story, Safiya.
Safiya, you thought I had the difficult questions, yeah? Now you know.
Because I think everyone should learn from the story. And dear listeners, if you also have stories, please share them with us. And our lines are open for you anytime. The number, Hatem?
24602058. That's 602058.
Okay, that's 24602058. I've got it right. Thank you very much. So, Sabah.
For example, there are some times when Safiya is low. She will tell me she can't do it.
And that when she was really young, at a very young age.
Yes, and even as she gets older, at the teenage age, she will, everything, especially teenage age, is really difficult for all the kids, but it's more difficult for Safiya.
Exactly.
And at that time she'll say, oh, Mommy, I can't do this. I can't go and talk about this. I cannot do that. And I said, I'm sorry, you have to do it. I'm not going to help. And she will argue about it, and we'll practice. If something that she has to do in school or something, we'll practice, and she'll realize that she can do it. I think sometimes, you have fear of what people judge you, especially with somebody with disability. They're so scared, and I noticed that with Safiya. She's so scared how people are going to judge her.
And that's normal with everybody, I
exactly.
think. Yeah.
So we have to get over that. So she wants me to do things for her sometimes, or she wants me to get her out of the situation, and I say no. You have to fight, you have to go there. And the first time she goes out and does it, and she realized I was wrong herself, that wasn't that scary. Then she goes back, and next time it's much easier. And I think parents try to protect their children, especially with disability, and they will stop.
When you threw the pajamas to her,
again, he likes the story of the pajamas.
I really wanted to take you back.
I went and watched TV, ignored her completely.
Really? Because I was going to ask you about the emotions she was going through.
I kept looking, sneaking, but not really set in front of her. It was near me, but I didn't show her that I was looking. I was just sneaking.
Because some parents might see and give up, and maybe they've tried and gave up. I would like you to tell us and tell the parents what really happened.
You feel inside that you are mean. I used to feel I'm mean. I used to feel I'm a bad person, but I kept telling myself not to feel that way.
And
I think most of the time parents feel that way. When you see your child suffering, especially if your kids are sick or if they have difficult time, you want to jump in there. I'm sure you as a dad, you feel that way. But we shouldn't. We should let the kids, let them fall, let them injure themselves. We have to make sure that it's safe, that they don't do something that's but minor thing, you have to watch. And I think this is in every parent. But it's much more difficult for people who have children with disability, because it takes longer for them to adjust. It takes sometimes months to get one activity done. And this is where the parents give up. It's easier for me to do it and be done.
You said something very important about the fear, that people with special needs have fear. But I think this fear, each one of us has this fear. And I can tell you and guarantee you 100% what Safiya is doing at the moment, which is public speaking. I would say that maybe 5% of the population can do what she's doing, and the rest don't have the courage to do that, to speak in front of an audience where there's strangers, and just fluently and very easily, the way she does it. I really salute her for that ability, and not everybody can do that.
One of the most phobias.
For phobias, I think we have people in senior management, and they can't even present.
Exactly.
Just for in front of 5 or 6 people, they can't even present. So the fear is there in everybody, but I think when people with special needs, the fear is there, but also the power is there.
Exactly.
And it's doubled more than the regular person.
Exactly.
And as a parent, they should invest in that potential, in that power that they have. Forget about the fear.
Exactly.
Take them through, hold their hand through the fear, but get them from point A, which is fear, to the ability which is inside them, which is far, far beyond any ability anybody has.
For example, when we talked about putting our kids in public who have disability, parents are kind of scared because people judge I remember, when me and Safia used to go to supermarket near our house. At that time, we didn't have big supermarket. You have those community supermarket.
Yeah.
And we used to go to buy our food on a weekly basis. I would take Safia with me. And I will put the vegetables in the plastic bag and give Safia to go and weigh them, and then bring them and put them in the cart. Everybody in the supermarket was angry at me. People thought I was very mean.
How could you?
Yeah, how could you do that to the poor child? And and Safia would say, I can do it. And people were kind of shocked that she wanted to do it. And they saw her carrying the bag, and she went to weigh. I remember the first time the guy picked the bag from her, weighed it, and brought it to the trolley and said to me, you are very mean, you shouldn't do that.
And I was very, very angry at him. I went to my mom, I was like, what's wrong with him? Why won't he let me do it?
She didn't understand because she does everything at home, so when she sees people judging her that way, she didn't understand what was going on.
I think, Sabah, what is very, very important here to note is that it's not important what people feel. It's important that you and Safi have that understanding.
Exactly.
And she knows exactly what you're doing, which is you're helping her and making her join you in daily life to be a normal person. But what people see and what people don't understand, it's their problem. They have to learn this way.
The relationship between me and Safia is that if we are going to start something new or do something new, we discuss ahead of time.
Okay.
If we are going to go to the supermarket, we discuss what is going to happen, how people are going to look at her, and what can she do to avoid that. And, if you have a situation, how you can avoid that situation. So we discuss ahead of time. So when we go to the supermarket and that experience happens, she already is aware. I don't want her to be shocked. And I think this is what parents need to teach their children about anything. Even our regular children, when we go out, that's what we need to tell them, what is happening. And I think if we do that, kids then are more able to accept things and understand. But if they go and people shock them, then they become really worried.
What about you, Safi? Have you ever had a confrontation with the public? Have you ever told them that it's okay, I can do this?
Many times.
I'm a person.
Till today, if I go out to restaurants, for example, sometimes I'm not given a menu, a plate, and silverwares. And my first reaction is I get really, really angry. Because I'm like, with all the things that I'm doing, it doesn't matter if I have challenges or not. You serve the customer with the plate and menu. And then I try to hold in my breath and say to myself, okay, this is what you have to do. You have to advocate or you have to teach. And I would ask him, can I have the menu? And he'd look at me and I'll say, yes, I can read. Don't worry. So, yeah, I think having to deal with being patient on a daily basis with things, I go through challenges, but also being patient with other people and, teaching them to, look beyond.
I think what you need to do is just hold your iPhone, ask him a number of his boss. I'm calling your boss. Let him see how you dial the number.
No, but this is what I was teaching Safia. When we go to public, people have never seen somebody like Safia here in Oman at that time. She was the only kid that's in the public. And everybody looks at her. So when people start looking, we're in supermarket, Safia would go shy and come behind me. Why are they, she doesn't understand why people are looking at her. Because she doesn't realize that something is different about her. Because we don't discuss this. to us, everything is normal. Everybody in the family doesn't really look at her that way. And that was a rule in our house. Sophia does everything.
I think I started realizing that I was different was when I was being a teenager, because these little things do pop out and come out, and trying to be fitting in is very difficult. But as a kid, I just thought I was like everyone.
What about your friends? As a teenager, when you became a teenager, what was their reaction towards you? Did they also have limitations of a task that they can't ask you to do? Things that they were able to do around you and you were not able to join them?
Yes. For example, going to the beach. Because of my prosthetic leg, I can't get water or sand into my leg. Yeah. And for them to have barbecues on the beach, it was frustrating for me that I couldn't go. At that time, I wouldn't accept that I was different, and I just had to stay home. And I used to get angry at my mom for her not letting me go. But I knew it's not because she didn't want to; it's because I couldn't. Yeah. Other things would be because I also have a learning disability. People were getting A's in my class, and I was barely passing. So that was very difficult for me, and it made a point where that's why they all clicked together and became friends, because they were moving on, while I had to, try so hard to catch up.
Yeah. But with the achievements that you have now, you're more than an A student. So what would you like? What's the message that you want to send to your friends? Okay, not a long message. Just make it short. Just a few words.
Maybe I'm not an A student in academics.
Yeah.
But I think I'm doing what I love.
And that's the important thing. If anyone who doesn't love something and they try and achieve it, I don't think they will reach anywhere, regardless of how intelligent they are. Only when you do something that you're really into and you love, that you'll achieve straight A's. And no one on earth would be able to achieve straight A's in everything and anything. If you find what you like, you do it, and you will excel in it. And that's exactly what you did. And that is, some of the people who are really intelligent, they just chose subjects because they think it is socially more fancy. Yeah. And they didn't excel in it, despite of their high intelligence.
And that's what the message I want to give to the parents regarding this. We didn't discover that Sophia had a learning disability until she was about, grade 4, grade 5. We realized that she has problem with processing, which is, you cannot process information in mathematics and sciences. You require that. And she has problem with memorization. Mm-hmm. Now, the educational system in Oman doesn't allow you to be able to function in areas where you are good at. Sophia is very good in arts, but she's not really good in the sciences and math. And all the curriculum in our government school are concentrating on that.
You have to go through math and science.
Yes. But for her to even graduate in the regular schools in Oman, she couldn't do that. So what she did is I had to send her to an American school where they have the art and the sciences. So she was getting D's, barely passing in her science, history, but in the art she was getting A and A+. And that's what we need to look at, what our abilities are and where they are, and that's what we concentrate. We still need to learn math, we still need to learn the other things, but we should give opportunity to kids who have other areas where they could excel in.
And this is something that you would least expect. Arts, which needs hands, fingers, holding things, precision, and all of that. And Sophia can do all of that without even hands.
Exactly. Yeah? And this is what I say. The parents have to let their kids try different things. And we saw in Sophia, actually art didn't start with Sophia because it's something that she loved. It was a way of expressing her anger. Since when she was little, she didn't understand why. But if she couldn't do something, like we were in the States and she couldn't be in the snow like other kids. We put a snow suit on her and put her outside, and she couldn't get up because it was difficult for her to so what she spent her time indoor while the other kids are outdoor. And what she did is she took a pad and she started drawing palm trees and river and mountains, and she took her frustration out. And when we saw that, that's when we encouraged Sophia to continue, because I knew that was more therapeutic for her. Yeah. And she started writing, poetry and things, saying about how she feels for herself since when she was little. And that's what she built up upon. And that's what we need to do as parents, encourage children to excel in the areas they are good at.
I think now Sophia excelled to a certain extent that when I look at some of her paintings, I don't think that there is anybody alive who can do that. The ability that she has is amazing. And it tells us that we have the disability. We have the disability, really.
The attitude
in our heads.
It's the attitude, it's the stigma. It's the stigma here in the society of how we should treat or we look at people who are physically challenged.
You should tell them about when you went to ask for a job as soon as you came back from college with your, what happened to you when you walked in.
Yeah.
Basically, I applied my CV or everything online, and they called me up and said, okay, let's have an interview. When they saw me, they kept looking at the paper and then looking back at me, and they're like, you're the same person? And I'm saying yes. And they said, they had this blank face, and they're like, the first question popped in their head, they're like, who's going to take care of you? And of course, I'm thinking in my head, I did not come, with the diapers or baby bottle or anything. And I was like, I can take care of myself. And then they go on saying, oh, well, what about the bathroom? And what about, if you want tea or coffee? I was like, I know how to serve myself. And then they're like, okay, they'll ask me questions about work. They're like, how long does it take you to design something? And I was very honest. I said, it will take me more time than anybody around here. I said, okay, then we don't have time for people who take long time. You can go.
So they were just trying to find excuses.
Exactly.
And I think it reflects how society looks at people. And sometimes I'm sad to say even the government.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's even the government, because I know of stories. I was actually going to come to this about maturation, adulthood, and the need for work. But I was going to ask about education first. And we will come back, Sophia, again to work. But education, what do we have? We spoke about parents, what they need to do. What do we have in Oman that would help physically challenged children to achieve their full potential?
I think with Sophia, it was much easier because she wear prostheses.
Yeah.
But kids on wheelchair are having much more difficult time because most of the schools in Oman are not really set up, with ramps and all of that for kids to be able to go. The bathrooms are not equipped properly for that. There is no, a child on wheelchair requires support. Yeah. Especially when they go to the bathroom. The bathroom has to be set up for wheelchair accessible. All these things are not existing. The school, most of these kids can learn. I mean, education is not a problem for them.
Yes.
The problem is the conducive environment that they are in. If you don't create environment where this child can excel and can, participate in the school, then they will never be able to learn. And what happens most of the time, these kids are put on the diaper. Now, you can do that when they're very little.
Yes.
When they're older, that's not comfortable. They need somebody to help them. So we need to create environment in school where, first of all, the facilities are appropriate, and then have aids that can help these kids.
And I think because they have own the right to education like everybody else.
Exactly.
And treating them as different or taking them to special schools is not the right thing, because how would people integrate
exactly.
in a single society if we try to isolate people according to how they look?
Exactly.
That's totally wrong. And I think we need this type of integration, which we still don't have. And a lot of people who really love their children and they have the guts to go and sacrifice and do something, they actually leave their countries.
Exactly.
And I have a lot of examples of people who left their beloved countries. They left Oman, they left their families, they left their good jobs just because to provide for their children. People left to Europe, to the States or other parts of the world because their child sometimes limps, they are considered as disabled and they are refused in areas to
in the society we are not accepting anybody who's slow.
Yeah.
And this is not right. We are all not at the same level. You know, we even have children with, who have illnesses that slows them down.
Yeah.
Disability sometimes, physically doesn't mean that you don't have arms or legs, or you are on wheelchair, or you are cerebral palsy that you can't walk properly. There are kids who can walk normally, but because of their illness, they're very slow. They won't be able to participate. They cannot go up the stairs because they're very weak, like children with thalassemia, sickle cell. They get sick often. Even those kids with that type of, I could consider it physical, because when they're in pain, they cannot really, they cannot use their limbs and they cannot function, are also left out. And I think we need to look at all the, we need to look at the environment and how can we make environment in school appropriate for learning. And I think Safia had to move from school to school in order for her to come to the end to an American school in order for her to get diploma.
It's really very unfortunate that we have to take our children to foreign schools in our own countries for them to get an education. And it's really shameful, I must say. And we need to really work hard to provide for these children. We are a country with a lot of resources, and we need to really put our resources at the right place for the right people.
I can share a story of one of my cousins who was blessed with a child who had, I think, autism. And at the beginning of the year 2000, I think, when the child was born, and there was no special facility for the boy here in Oman, so he could not have any sort of education. And my cousin had a very good job and a career, and he just decided that he's gonna quit his job and go to one of the neighboring countries where they have a special center for people like his son. And he went there and he took his family and they settled there. And when he arrived there, he could not get any job opportunity in that country except a security guard. And he said, I will do it just for the sake of my son. And he lived in that country for 10 years until his son got proper education and was able to adopt in normal schools, and then that's when he came back to Oman and settled back to Oman.
It's really admirable, but at the same time, I hope that this would be like a waking call for people who are responsible of the education system or people in the government, that we still need to do a lot of work to accommodate children with physical disabilities.
To tell you the truth, when Safia started, we didn't have that, but I can see now things are changing in Oman.
Okay.
But very slow.
Yeah.
And already some private schools are starting to accept the children. They're starting to accommodate them. They will create a ramp for the children. But I think there's something missing. There's no coordination between the school and the parents. And I think the parents have to be really very involved. If you read the history of disability all over the world, who really fought for the rights of the children with disability? It's the parents, because they are the ones that are suffering.
Exactly.
And they are the one who will change the society. We have to, as parents, speak up for our children. We have to fight for them. We have to go to school and do some changes. Sometimes the schools don't have ideas on how to go about doing it. And I think we as parents, because we read and we understand what is required, we have to go into school and say to the principal, okay, I'll bring my daughter. What can I do to help? You want a ramp? I'll bring the baladia, or I'll bring somebody who knows how to put a proper ramp. We have to participate as parents.
Yeah. And not only throw the responsibility to the other side.
But if we just wait for the government or we wait for the private school to do it on their own, we'll never do it. I think it's a partnership. It's how to work together. And I'll tell you, I've learned a lot, in America, because when we went to America when Safia was 6, we worked as partner with the schools. The schools will ask parents, what do you need? How can we make the environment good? And we work together as a team. I don't think they have idea how to work with Safia. I don't think I had a fully idea how we can do it in school, but as a team, as we went along, every day we learned new things, we modified, we corrected, and that's how things are working, because most of the disability are different. One child needs are different. You cannot generalize. You cannot say all the kids have to be the same.
Yeah.
So I think it's the partnership and community work, and also responsibility of companies. I think, like I said last time, the companies who are employing and the government who are employing staff, when they have children with disability, they have to give them time Because whatever these parents are doing, if they take 2 hours or 3 hours out of their work, this is coming back to the society and the community again.
Yes. That's a lot.
It's not something that they're taking, they want to go home and sleep. There's no parent who will take that time off.
Sabah, the way these organizations treat the employee as if it's not our problem.
Exactly.
But it is your problem.
It is.
Yeah, because if you have the employee there full time, where his full thoughts is with his child, with needs, special needs at home, then he will not be able to be productive.
Exactly.
And as an organization, you have to be sensitive to the needs of your employees, and this is part of how you contribute to help in this
and that's what we are doing also at our association. We have a program, home visit program.
Yeah.
We write to companies, we write to government asking permission. Like we have sometimes, especially children with autism or children with some kind of mental illness that is included with the psychological problem. The parents at home don't know how to deal with the child. We get this child is so difficult. So the easy solution for me as an association is to kick that child out of the school. You know, then it's easy for me. But that's not the solution. So what we try to do, we say to the parents, okay, this what we didn't work. What you are doing at home is not working. Why don't you come to the center for 1 week? Let you as the parents see what we are doing, and you look at what you do at home. Let's look at where the problems are, and we try to solve these problems. So the mother spend the whole week with the child in the center, and we learn from each other. And believe me, we had a child that we did that, and the child is wonderful now.
And that's the early intervention center.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's what we need to do, is work as a team. You know, doctors, companies, families, community. We all have to work together if we really want to support people with disability.
I think you mentioned something very, very important, that everything has to start with the parents. All
Exactly.
initiatives has to start with the parents. Don't look at your environment. Don't look at the government. Don't look at the obstacles or the challenges that you have within your community. Just you be the first person to have that initiative, to start this, and then you once you get it done, you will benefit others. So it's like a charity that you're doing for others. Don't
Exactly.
always wait and just sit at home and have your child at home like a couch doing nothing, and you can't help them and you can't do anything. That's not a solution. You not knowing what to do is not a solution as well. You have to go and find out,
Exactly.
read about it, ask people, seek solutions. Plus, you should have the patience and the sacrifice. I think the element of sacrifice is needed.
Exactly.
In these situations. Sometimes we sacrifice our comfort zone, we sacrifice our careers, we sacrifice a lot of good things for the sake of our children.
I think we'll break now for prayers, so for the call of the prayers, and we'll be back shortly. So stay tuned.
The Modern Family. Let us bridge the gap between generations.
Our listeners, now it's time for a call to prayers. Adhan al-Isha, according to local timing of Muscat and its suburbs. Those who reside outside Muscat Governorate have to notice the difference in timing. Radio Sultanate of Oman.
The Modern Family.
Dear listeners, welcome back to The Modern Family, and you could call us on 24602058. That's 24602058. We are here today in the studio with Safiya Al-Bahlani and her mother Sabah Al-Bahlani, talking about physical disability and the challenges of living with a child with physical disability. We are dedicating the next 3 months to talk about children with disability and how to live with them, and how we should deal with children with disability, different types. Today we have Safiya, and you, Safiya, talked about your experience when you were seeking for a job, and what a dreadful experience. It would put anyone off and be really upset, and I'm sure you are upset because of it. What message do you have for employers?
I have a couple messages, actually. The first one would be, you really need to look beyond appearances and look at the skill. If someone sends you a CV or a big gigantic portfolio and it's really good work, and you think that this work could benefit your company or whatever, you should really look beyond the person's challenges and try to actually work together to see how they can help you with your company, and how you can help them by helping them be independent. The second thing is, okay, this person probably cannot do things in 5 minutes, so you need to learn how to work around that. I mean, I'm pretty sure even for someone who is doesn't have any challenges, there are probably other situations where you cannot do it very quickly and you would take time, because obviously things would be new to you, and for anything that's new, it's going to take time until you learn to figure out how to make things quicker for yourself. I think, those are...
No, that's really a good message, and I think we spoke during the break about the good steps that the government took in setting certain numbers and percentages for employers to employ people who are physically challenged. And I have seen several people on wheelchairs working. But are we ready for that? Are we fully prepared? Is the environment really suitable for disabled people to work, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I don't think, and Safiya can tell you more about that, but I think, most of the employers, because this rule is there, they really comply by the rule. They would go out of their way to employ somebody with disability, but they don't really try to understand what their needs are and how to incorporate the person with disability and integrate them within the working force. And you'll see that sometimes they just bring the person with disability, put them in a reception, and just abandon that person. There's no training, there's no, trying to figure out what would work, what won't work. And the person with disability will say, I don't just want to sit here and earn money. I want to be part of the workforce. I want to be included, and they feel left out. And many of them, in the end, abandon the job because they feel like that they're just there, to cover that 2% that the government has said to be there. I think the company have to take it seriously and learn. And I don't blame the company. I think they don't know really how to. And this is where I said before, we need to work as a team. The companies, when they have somebody with physically challenged, they can either bring the people themselves and ask them what will make things easier for them, involve them in setting up the place, or bring experts who can come and show them how to modify the place, how to incorporate, how to include them in the activity, and how the staff should respect the person with disability.
Yes.
I've seen people making fun of somebody who's deaf because they think they cannot hear. They don't understand that the person with deafness can feel from your vibration, can see in your face that you are making fun of them. And that will put them off. And they say that. People with physically challenged on wheelchair, people look at them as invalid. They cannot do anything on their own. And they'll try to say, oh, Maskeen, let me help you. Let me open the door for you. You shouldn't do that. And I think people should learn, how to deal with that person. What will make them happy?
We were discussing before the program, me and Wael, and he mentioned something very important. He said, Hatem, how many people in senior management do you know who are with disability? And I thought about it, and I couldn't come across any organization that anyone from the senior management. So I think
with physical disability, which has absolutely nothing to do with their processing capabilities or intelligence.
Even opportunities, giving them to progress, to have better careers, to have the say, to have the decision-making power in organization. I think we still have a lot to do when it comes to...
For example, Safiya can tell you this. When we go out, and somebody wants to ask me something about Safiya, they go, she's an artist? And I said, why don't you ask her? Why are you asking me?
So they don't even direct the question to her, as if she won't understand.
Yeah, and this is the sad part. I have a colleague who is on wheelchair, and we will be walking somewhere, and somebody would ask me, and I said, excuse me, you can ask him, And they go, but, and I said, it doesn't mean that you are on wheelchair or you are physically disabled. Even the kids who have disability, talk to them. Yes. Sometimes when I talk, even parents themselves, parents will come to the center and I'll talk to their kids. And they say to me, he doesn't talk. And I said, I know he doesn't talk. But I'm communicating. When you communicate, it doesn't mean that you have to respond to me. I can talk to you now without really expecting you to communicate back. I'm trying to probably give you a good feedback. I'm trying to encourage you. It doesn't mean you want to, need... for our kids in the center, when I walk around and I see a kid, I just do my finger up. And they're so excited. You see how bright they are. Or if I clap my hand. We have to educate people that, anybody can communicate and anybody can understand. Even children with disability, they do understand through our emotions and
and they have feelings.
And they have feelings and they have vibration. God has given them that al-fitra in understanding what's going around them.
Yeah.
And they can sense if somebody is bad and not good. You can see children avoiding somebody who's that way. I think God has given them this. And Safiya can tell you how people treat her in the...
Yes, Safiya, tell us.
Oh boy.
No, it's important you talk, because I see it, but I don't know how you feel inside.
Do you feel comfortable, for example, going out and just catch a taxi, for example, and go somewhere because you would like to see your friends?
I don't mind.
You don't mind?
I've done it before a couple of times, but it's not easy either.
Okay, why is it not easy?
First of all, because it's being, you just can't walk out and get a taxi within minutes. Sometimes you have to wait for half an hour or whatnot, and it's not easy. And the fact that, either they rip you off or sometimes I can't get into the car because the way the body of the car is, so it's not accessible all the time.
And they don't get out to help her, because
no one will get out and help you.
No, because there have been a couple of times when my mom would be on a work business, and she's not in town, and I don't want to constantly wait around for my family to come pick me up to go buy groceries. So we have 2 grocery stores that are closer to our neighborhood, and we walk all the way there, buy the stuff, and then we'd say, okay, we'll catch a cab. Nobody would get out and help you with the grocery bags and say, okay, let's put it in the taxi. Everybody, is depending on they don't really care.
That is really strange, because what normally happens for everybody is that you have people in the stores, in the supermarkets, who would fill the bags and sometimes will even take the trolleys all the way to your car, expecting
put it in
and put it in the car, expecting a tip. Now, why isn't that available why don't they do it for someone who actually needs it more?
They're scared of her. This is what I noticed. To tell you the truth, I noticed when I walk around with Safiya or with even our children in the center, people are scared. And I don't understand why.
It's not just people. I mean, I don't mean to offend any doctors here, but even going to the hospital, it's they treat me like I'm some sort of disease or virus. Even if it's a cold, they say, oh, it's because of your challenge. And I'm thinking, what does a cold have to do with that?
Or even to for them to medically check her, they're scared. And this is really sad.
Because
that's what I'm telling you.
They don't have enough training, you would imagine?
I think it's human nature. people are so afraid that they will injure her or they will hurt her, or it's just their fears inside them that they will be like her. I don't.
It's strange that people in the medical field they have all the training and still they would react in this way.
They still do that. I had to find a special consultant for her to take care of her.
In the last 2 minutes that we have, what is your final advice, especially on the topic we just spoke about? How could parents deal with such situations?
I think, as I said before, the parents have to be, to have tough love. I mean, I know you are afraid. I know sometimes parents, jump to do things for their kids because they feel that they have to. They shouldn't do that. They should give their children opportunity. Our children, other children usually are easy to learn things, and if you leave them alone, they can learn it easily. But children with disability, if you don't teach them at a very early age, they will lose that skill. So the parents have to work with their children and give them the opportunity to do that. I think also the society needs to accept people with disability. If it's physically disability, I think the companies have to be involved. I think that parents have to fight for their right and educate, not to feel ashamed. I don't feel ashamed when I'm in the road and somebody does something to Safia. I educate them. I say, that's not appropriate what you did.
So you don't get angry.
I don't get angry. I don't get angry at all.
Do not get angry. Educate. And it is a tough work to do.
Exactly.
That you need to do that at home, and you need to do that probably all your life. But it is something, a sacrifice you do for the society, so the generations ahead are much more able to deal with disability.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for both of you. You are inspirational, not to us here, but I think to the world. We need to really carry these stories and advertise the heroes, the unsung heroes of our society, like you, both of you, and would like more of you to be on the show and all over the world, really. So thank you very much for being with us. And dear listeners, we'll have another show again next week, next Tuesday, inshallah. So from me, Wa'il Al-Harasi
and Hatim Al-Absalam.
Assalamu alaikum.
The Modern Family. The Modern Family. Let us bridge the gap between generations. Let us shape up the modern family.
I remember when I first met you, I felt that God answered my just wanted to be there with you, the place that no eye has ever seen, the place that no heart